it sounds like the question is that there's a prayer to move toward purity, to become pure, but without judging impurity or basing the purity on impurity. Is that right? Is that the question? Okay. According to the Indian spiritual tradition, there isn't the same sense of impurity or sin that we get in the Judeo-Christian Western traditions. So we don't talk, for example, about salvation or damnation. Rather, we talk about liberation. And the difference is, it's not, I need to be saved, but rather I need to be free. But what that freedom is freedom of that which is blocking my purity from me. So it's not impure, and that's an important distinction. You're going to have to translate this. That it doesn't mean that there is something which is impure or bad or sinful. What it means is that there is something which is simply blocking the purity from her being able to experience that. So, what blocks our purity from us? Our nature, the very core of who we are, the center of who we are, is purity and divinity. That which we think of as impurity or sin is really just ignorance. Ignorance of who we really are. There's a wonderful story, and what I want to do is I want to tell you the whole story and then let you tell her the story rather than do it in bits and pieces, because I think it'll be easier for you to tell it if you have the whole thing. So it's a wonderful story of a Buddhist temple in Thailand. And in this temple, they worshipped a big clay Buddha. And they had been worshipping this big clay Buddha for hundreds of years. And one day, the monks in the temple notice that there's something shining from a crack in the clay in the Buddha. And so very, very carefully they start to clean and to see what it is that's shining. And they notice that the more they clean away, the more it shines. And so very, very slowly and very, very carefully, they start to see what's inside the clay. And they find that actually there's gold inside. And they remove the clay, and they have a golden Buddha inside the clay. And it turns out that many hundreds of years ago, when the invaders had come, they had stolen and looted all of the gold, melted it down, broken everything, and stolen it. So that time there was a temple with a golden Buddha. But the monks at that time did not want their golden Buddha to be stolen and broken and melted down. So they covered it with clay so the invaders would not know that it was valuable. The Buddha survived, but the monks did not. Their families did not. So nobody knew that this clay Buddha was actually gold. And the moral and the purpose of that story is, that's who we are. But we cover it up with clay, and that clay is what we call not self. Our ego, our desires, our anger, our pain from the past, things other people have told us, our jealousy, our confusion, all of these things, bad experiences that we've had that have stayed with us, grudges we have about it, all of that becomes the clay on top of us. And so we forget that inside us there's gold. So who you are is pure. But like the rest of us, there's clay. And so the question becomes not what's wrong with the clay, not this impurity of the clay, not to get angry at the clay, but simply to remove the clay. We don't have to turn the clay into gold. There's already gold. So we don't have to hate the impurity, hate the ignorance, try to turn it into something else. All we have to do is remove it as quickly as we can so that we can go back to being the gold of who we are.